Good afternoon, folks. This is Rob Chappell, Executive Editor of Madison356, with your daily update for January 15th, 2021. The coronavirus news, which is what most of you come here for, is pretty good today for Wisconsin. The news from other parts of the country, not so good. And there's some not so good news with regard to vaccines, but we'll get to that in a minute. But I want to go through the numbers here for Wisconsin, first of all. And what we're seeing today is, all the signs are encouraging. And it's going to be tempting to say, everything's fine. We can all go back to work and back to school and everything. Not so much. Don't do that. Here's what we know. Today we have about 8,000 new tests today. 2,269 new cases, still a lot of cases, right? That's still 28% of the new tests today are coming back positive, which is not great. But again, those are dispersed over the past several days. So when you actually look at what day each of those tests was actually processed, what you get is that over the past 7 days, 25.9% of people who have been tested positive. That's 1 out of 4. That's high. However, yesterday that was 27. So for a 7-day average to drop by more than a full percentage point is really great. Our test rate for all tests, meaning of all the tests that are taken, including those that are getting multiple tests over the course of that week, down to 8.5. The lowest we've seen since we've been tracking that number, the lowest we've seen is 8.1. So we're approaching that. And I'm hoping once you get down to 8.1, we can just keep going down. That's the key number, that 8.5% of all tests. We want that to get down to below 3. Right? Nothing magic happens at 3. Like we're not under any government orders or whatever. But that would change at 3%. But 3% is what makes you think that everything's kind of getting back to pretty good, right? Now, we did also report 32 deaths today, which is still a lot. I'm sorry, actually 33, and then there was one taken out. But I can tell you where those fatalities were reported. Pretty well spread out. As usual, four in Waukesha County is the highest. That's low. And then 2 each in Washington, Walworth, Pierce, Kenosha, Juneau, Brown, and Barron counties. And then 1 each in Winnebago, Taylor, St. Croix, Sheboygan, Rock, Polk, Ozaukee, Outagamie, Marinette, Manitowoc, La Crosse, Jefferson, Fond du Lac, Eau Claire, and Columbia. So, and then the one that was removed from the data was from Milwaukee County. So again, 32 deaths is a lot. The leading cause of death in Wisconsin is heart disease. Kills 31 people a day. Okay, just to give you a sense of how many deaths from a single cause 32 is. 32 is still very high for any single cause of death. Okay, but a week ago, because these deaths are reported in kind of a cycle. There's not many reported over the weekend, and then there's a lot reported on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then it kind of goes down. So if you look at the comparable days, so last Friday we reported 36, so today we report 32, okay, going in the right direction. That brings our 7-day average to 29, which our 30-day average is 40. What that tells you is recently deaths have gone down, which is good. Our hospitalizations are also down, kind of by a lot today. What did we say? I think it was 45. Yep, it fell by 45 today. Current hospital population with COVID-19 is 953. You'll remember at its peak, that was like 2,400. Okay, that's when the hospitals were like at the brink of being overwhelmed. I think there are some hospitals that are still, pretty stretched thin, but there's no indication right now of anywhere in Wisconsin where they're like in Los Angeles right now, you've got people lining the hallways on gurneys. You've got bodies in freezers, right? We were almost at that point in November. We very narrowly missed that type of crisis, and we're not there anymore, which is really good news for us, for Wisconsin, right? One other number I'll mention is vaccinations. Again, we're going to try to. I'm not, because we're just kind of ramping up with this data. We just started getting this data in the last couple of days. It's hard to understand much context for this. Like, we've had 4,000 more people get their second shot since yesterday. Right, so we're over 40,000, or over rather 30,000 now. 30,805. Yesterday it was like 26,700 something. So about 4,100 people have gotten their second shot since yesterday. Is that a lot? I don't know. I mean, it seems like a lot of people to me. But maybe a week from now that'll be 10,000 every day. Don't know. So we'll continue to watch that just to be able to provide some context. We also have now 213,056 total doses have been given out, which means there's about 150,000 people who've gotten just the one dose and are waiting now for the second. Now, on vaccines, we've just recently learned that the Federal Reserve of vaccine doses doesn't actually exist, and that's troubling. And I don't know a lot more than that. I'm going to try to get some more information about that. But basically, what it sounds like is states were promised more doses that the federal government had already procured, and that it was for a lot of things, for like flu shots and stuff like that. Like healthcare providers, state health departments, county health departments just order from Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson or whoever. And I think that's happening in this case also. But also, in addition to that, the federal government bought these huge, massive bulk orders of doses. And that's where these first doses have come from, has come from the federal government. And there was governors, state health departments have been promised certain numbers of doses, and that they've been promised that there's this reserve in the federal stockpile. And evidently, they're now being told that, oh, no, sorry, those are all gone now. So that doesn't bode very well for continued doses. I will say, here's, so again, I'm going to try to get more information about that, because I'm not sure exactly, because you're hearing that from the state side. So I haven't had a chance to really fact check that or really understand what's going on. But what I can tell you is a certain number of doses have been allocated to Wisconsin. And we know that number is, give me 1 second, 607,650 have been basically promised to Wisconsin. I don't know if those were supposed to have come from that reserve, which is now empty, or if those are actually exist in a warehouse somewhere and we know that they exist and that they're coming. I honestly don't know. That's one of the problems with getting news by Twitter, is you get the governor saying it's all gone, but I don't know what that means really precisely. So I'll continue to look into that and figure out what's happening there. Linda says UW Health ER had a long wait for treatment as of last night for a very serious non-COVID case. I wouldn't. It depends on what you mean by a long wait. I mean, I have never been to UW ER. This is nothing against UW ER, but I've been to UW ER a couple of times, and it's never been quick. Once for a car accident, once for a different illness kind of thing for a kid, and it's never swift. So I don't know if by long you mean longer than usual, which is it's always a couple of hours. But yeah, that wouldn't be. 13 hours? Holy cow! That's a lot. But and I wonder if that's 13 hours is a long wait and longer than usual. And I wonder whether that is COVID related. So I know Dane County is down today. Dane County has been kind of the hospitalization patterns have been a little different than the state. In that sometimes the state will be going down, but Dane County goes up. And Dane County hospitalizations move a little differently than the state because we get a lot of cases from outside Dane County. Sauk County, Iowa County, they have these really nice small hospitals that lack critical care facilities. So some folks will get shipped over here. Although that I wouldn't think that hospital population, that admitted hospital population shouldn't really affect the emergency room. I wouldn't think. But what it would affect is staffing levels, and maybe the ER is understaffed because COVID wards and units are overly staffed. So I'm sorry that happened. That's terrible. But like I said, the numbers being better on the statewide level doesn't necessarily mean that there couldn't be some hospitals that are still having a real hard time. What we're finding is this thing is obviously statewide, but it also can have very localized effects. Right? Like you could have one county that, like we saw early in the spring, Brown County, kind of isolated, off the charts outbreak, while the rest of the state was kind of okay. So, Dane County has, especially the hospitalization, Dane County has been really going up and down, and is somewhat independent of the state because Dane County, those three hospitals in Madison are basically serving 9 counties in some cases, right? So, okay. Well, thank you, Linda, for sharing that. That's good to know. I mean, it's bad that it happened, but it's good to know just anecdotally that Madison might be a little bit different than the rest of the state. So we're going to take a moment. I'm going to talk a minute about a new sponsor of the program today, and then we'll get into some other news. This is Community Shares of Wisconsin. We'd like for us to share with you their backyard heroes for the month of January. Our first backyard hero is Simbri Van Fossen. Positive Women for Change is an organization. I was privileged to have Simbri Van Fossen as treasurer of the board of directors. She has demonstrated her commitment to the vulnerable populations they serve by utilizing her expertise to help build a better organization. Despite her busy schedule, she's never missed a meeting and is always ready to jump in and assist with grants or other time-critical needs. Simbri is a vital part of the team, and Positive Women for Change is grateful that she has chosen to share her time and talents with them. Our second backyard hero today for January is Megan Pierce of the Sierra Club Foundation, John Muir chapter. She is a tireless advocate for clean energy. She's willing to take on any volunteer role, big or small. Megan helps to welcome new volunteers, plan educational events, compile documents, and more, all to help the Madison area move towards 100% clean, renewable energy. We thank Community Shares of Wisconsin for sponsoring the program today. We're going to be bringing you their backyard heroes once a month as they honor volunteers and people doing good work in the community. So let's get to some other news for today. I had a wonderful conversation with this gentleman here. His name is Matt Dannenberg. He's from Watertown. He went to UW-Madison, and he now lives in Milwaukee, although he'll soon have to relocate to Washington, D.C. He is also a member of the Bad River Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa, and he is going to be, as of, I guess, next Wednesday, I suppose, the Senior Associate Director of the Office of Presidential Personnel for President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. He was going to be a meteorologist. He wanted to be a storm chaser. His quote was, "I wanted to be a storm chaser like Bill Paxton in Twister." If you remember that movie. But he ran into calculus. Didn't work out. But he had that passion for weather and science and turned that into a career advocating around climate change, working for legal conservation voters, Wisconsin Voices, getting the census, making sure everybody's counted in the census. So what he's going to be doing for the administration is kind of recruiting and helping to fill key staff positions across the administration. They literally have to hire like thousands of people in a couple of months, right? It's kind of an insane undertaking. But he's going to be doing all the climate jobs, Department of Energy, EPA, Department of Interior, any jobs related to climate. He's going to be doing that recruiting and interviewing and hiring. And then also he's going to create a Native American pipeline to get more indigenous people into jobs in the administration, which is very exciting. And it was a really interesting conversation. I had a quote from him on the podcast this morning as well. So go to the website right now, learn all about Matt Dannenberg of the Bad River Band of Lake Superior Chippewa. Also today, a range of organizations held a press conference today about anti-violence programs. And, there's been gun violence in Madison the last, 3 years or so. Gun violence in Madison has been pretty bad. It's really ramped up. And so United Way of Dane County, the district attorney, Boys and Girls Club, Black Man Coalition, Briar Patch Youth Services, the mayor's office, the county executive, they all had a sort of a press conference today to release this. They've got this video PSA that Raphael Ragland, who's a filmmaker here in town, made, and featuring Michael Johnson from the Boys and Girls Club and some other folks who have been involved in violence over the years, speaking out now against it. And part of the call for this is for more mentors, understanding that the way to divert a young person away from violence is to give them something else to work toward, right? So our Aomi Wolf attended that press conference. It was a virtual press conference, so she was there. She wrote up a nice recap of it, and then we've got that PSA video that you can then is in the story that you can share if you'd like. Also today, Yannette Figueroa Cole is another candidate for Common Council in Madison. We are told, I have to verify this, but for the 20 seats on the city council, right now there are 21 candidates of color running for those seats. That's unprecedented. And Yannette Figueroa Cole is one of them, and we have a profile of her up today on the site. Just she's running in District 10 against incumbent Zachary Hinek. And her platform is basically three issues: health and wellness, creating a balanced budget, and balanced budget meaning not balanced in the accounting sense, but balanced in the everybody should benefit from the city budget way, and then working together and collaborating, creating more collaboration in various forms of government, city, county, state, that kind of thing. So Aomi Wolf also interviewed her and has that story up. Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Zachary Hinek is not running for re-election. She's not running against him. He's not running for re-election. Sorry about that. She's running against Mara Aish, who's another person running for that District 10 seat here in Madison. And finally today, if you see this young man tomorrow, tell him happy birthday. This is my firstborn son, Tieran Chappell, who's turning 22 years old tomorrow. I can hardly say that with any credibility. It's hard to believe. Yes, you're right, Kathy. Zachary's not running again. 22 years ago, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I was in the room when this young man came into the world, and I cannot tell you how proud I am of him and everything he's done and accomplished, and the kind of young man he is. So happy birthday to my prince, Tieran Chappell. All right, that is the news for today. I appreciate your tuning in, and I thank you, Kathy, for correcting me on that. I will very likely not have an update over the weekend unless something big happens. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and stay safe out there. I'm dead serious when I say, like, the numbers are better. The COVID numbers are really looking good right now. But that's because we're doing what we're doing. That's because we are ordering groceries. It's because we are not going to the stores. Because we are not going to gatherings. If we start to feel like, oh, everything's fine now, we can start to go to parties and we can start to go to bars. Those numbers will go back up. So keep doing what you're doing. It's working, right? We're seeing in the numbers that it's working. So continue to do what you're doing. Stay safe out there. Have a wonderful weekend.
This is 365 Media.